Twilight Gets a Puppy. By TDR. Chapter 2. The One with the Waggly Tail. Celestia's journal entry. Thursday, I think? Or is it Friday? While I know I explained this before, that journal is probably buried under 100 others, so I might as well again. It's not as if anything exciting happened today aside from my nearly dying watching Twilight's face scrunch up like a prune as she tried to cast a teleport spell for the first time. The spell is far beyond even her abilities at this point, but she was insisting she be allowed to try. Anyway, about my niece, Princess Mi Amor Cadenza. First and foremost is that she is none of those things. She is not related to me, trust me, I checked. She's related to a bloodline that vanished from Equestria a long time ago. Second, she isn't a princess, see vanished bloodline. At best, she could claim to be a noble. Third, that's not her real name. I chose it because that long-winded thing was funny at the time. Finally, she's not a proper alicorn. I think. Don't quote me on that last one. The few other gods I know have been around since the thing they represent has been around. In my case, the sun. In Luna's case, the moon. There was chaos, the oceans, the earth, and sky somewhere. And I'm pretty sure there was a rabbit god somewhere who represented the concept of time. But he was always running late to the parties we used to throw, so we stopped inviting him. Cadence, her preferred name, though still not her real one, which was McKillop or something, started life as a Pegasus about 200 years ago. While I am only somewhat sure of the details, there was a unicorn within the town she grew up who created a love-stealing spell and had one of the alicorn amulets, another artifact created by her to boost her troops' powers. The things keep turning up like bad bits. Cadence reversed the spell, I have no idea how. She was a Pegasus for Star's sake, and cured the unicorn's issues. I still say getting her laid would have done the same thing. Then, according to witnesses, Cadence exploded. At this point in time I was dealing with some pressing issues on Equestria's east coast. Mostly stubborn idiots who refused to run from a Category 5 out-of-control hurricane that had cropped up due to some weather ponies sleeping on the job. I had that investigated later and it turned out to be a butterfly's fault of all things. I only knew of a bit of the trouble in Hollow Shades, but a wild Category 5 hurricane was a bit more pressing than some depressed ponies. The sudden flood of energy from her explosion was hard to miss, however, and I suddenly knew a destination to teleport that I didn't before. Still, priorities, but after dealing with the disaster evacuations, the pinging note of the power was still going off in my head. Since I was finished, I popped into the destination ready to throw down with something, thinking it was a threat. I was really annoyed at that butterfly. Of course, what I found was a terrified pink Pegasus who had been stuck in a weird place floating in space that was showing her all her past memories. This included a number of the sort of memories that just pop into your brain and make you think, why was I so stupid at 3 a.m. when you're trying to sleep? She didn't know what was going on, I didn't know what was going on, and before I could figure it out, she exploded again. So if anyone asks, yes, you can do that, you can explode twice. Still, the explosion left a trail of magic I could follow, and when I did, I found myself in Hollow Shades. Next to me was a super confused pink Pegasus, who now had the whole town bowing to her, a horn on her head and a perfect heart-shaped ass. I mean, heart-shaped cutie mark on her flank. Note to self, get a disguise, and go bar hopping again soon. Don't you judge me, journal, a mare's got needs. At any rate, after a thorough investigation it was found that she was a real alicorn, and an alicorn of love at that. Which, as I wrote before, makes no sense as love was already a thing. It had been a thing since chocolate cake was invented, or maybe a bit before that, I just know that was my first love. Still, I was fully prepared to bring her back to Canterlot, put her on a throne and have my paperwork and time with the nobles when she did something unexpected. She thanked me for the offer to make her a princess, and then refused it. Honestly, I wasn't aware this was even an option. Had I known, some other schmuck could have been dealing with running Equestria and I could have been kicked back on a beach somewhere moving the sun to just the right position for a perfect tan. Since I hadn't planned to force her to do anything anyway, I did the expected wise princess thing of leaving the offer open and giving her a place to send a letter if she had questions. It was then I found out that she didn't know how to read or write. Which, while fairly normal at the time for working-class ponies, I've since fixed that, because who wants to rule over a country of idiots? I'd never find intelligent conversation, nor any pony creative enough to make new kinds of cakes. So I sent a scribe out there to write the correspondence for her and to teach her to read and write. So until about 16 years ago Cadence lived out in the backwoods of Equestria, dealing with the weather for farmers over the little rural area. In time, Hollow Shades pretty much stopped treating her like a princess and more like someone who was just there like any other neighbor. Any travelers still had a conniption when they saw her, however. She eventually became a bit of a tourist attraction for a while and earned the name the Rural Princess. She hates that title, by the way. She also really hates the fact that one of the first photographs of her shows her slopping pigs, covered in mud and strands of hay while she was helping out a neighbor. It's a long forgotten image now, but I've got close to 300 copies of it stashed away, including one on a giant banner that I am so going to put up if she ever gets married or hosts a big party. So yes, 12 years ago she shows up in Canterlot disguised as a Pegasus and comes to talk to me. I was rather impressed with her unaided magical progression if she managed a disguise like that, though she didn't think it was that important of a step. It was. She didn't hide her horn, she simply made a spell to make it the most uninteresting thing about her and thus everyone ignored it, and probably focused on her rear, though I didn't say that to her. My student at the time, Sunset Shimmer, was the one who pointed it out to me. She was very clever for a 6-year-old, pity that went south as bad as it did. Even Cadence couldn't help with that one. Cadence had had enough of the farm life and wanted a more formal education, but given her education, she didn't know much, and needed to start from the bottom in everything. So after upping her disguise and giving her a fake background, she was sent to act as a teacher's aide for a local school as a unicorn. This allowed the adult mare to experience all the learning of kindergarten through 8th grade without the boredom that would come to an adult during nap time and the panic of juice box tantrums. It also had the side effect of making her really good with foals. Like, really good. I'm talking Mary Clopping's good. Once she hit 8th grade she was enrolled properly, as it took little to no effort to make her look like an awkward teenager, and her social skills were still out of whack enough that she fit right in. She is doing rather well, though it seems she's become the popular mare in school despite not wanting to be. Probably the spell hiding her wings making everyone focus on her butt again. I've also set up a tutor for giving her after-hours classes on nobility and anything else needed to be a proper princess. It was part of our deal. I'll get my vacation yet. Recently I brought up the issue with Twilight, Ross, and Spike to her and she agreed to offer her service in dealing with foals to the parents. She wanted to be helpful and she didn't think she had managed that yet, spending all her time in school. And since it's me suggesting her, Nightlight and Twilight Velvet can't complain. Particularly with how much their current sitter is charging them, so she could buy full-body plate mail. Not that I think that would help when Spike finally realizes he can breathe fire on command, not just on burp. Given Cadence will be funded by the crown, that should help them a little financially. All in all, this seems like a decent plan if I do say so myself. And I do. Here's hoping Cadence survives her first encounter with those three. I've got the cardiac teams on standby. Author's note. Edited by Lollipops. End author's note. Chapter 2. The one with the waggly tail.